It's Wednesday, everybody, and you know what that means. It's more of your Heat latest right here on FanArc. Thanks so much for tuning in. I'm Sam Shapiro. Don't forget to drop a like on this video and, of course, subscribe to our channel for great daily content here Monday through Friday. Miami is getting pretty desperate to trade Terry Rozier, and it's become evident now just seeing the rumor that was released yesterday. Miami pretty much willing to trade just about anything for the guard, and unfortunately, between the front office and the coaching staff, everyone was kind of now reportedly very upset with the digressing and decline of Rozier over this past season, and now are really it's now being reported, at least by Ethan Skolnick, that they really, really want him out of South Beach, at least for the start of the regular season. It'll be interesting to see if they can get him out, or if they'll try to, if desperate times call for desperate measures, trying to get him shipped out by the trade deadline, which I think is interesting because the whole reason they brought him in the first place was to keep the guy they shipped out at the trade deadline last year happy. But you make plans, and the universe kind of laughs sometimes. And in the grand scheme of things, Miami has been actively trying to shop the final year of Rozier's contract, worth up to $25 million, depending on incentives, for pretty much just about anything. But it's pretty clear that they're specifically trying to get a big man out of Rozier at this point, specifically a 4 or 5 player that can help out in the front court. And I think at this point, it's going to be very tough because, we're approaching mid-end of August, and no teams are really emerging as clear front runners that are super excited about Rozier as well. It seems like a lot of other teams are taking note of his digression over the past season, especially, and they don't really see the guard that he once was in Charlotte. So unfortunately, I don't think Miami is going to get that much out of him at this point for a quality deal. Drop in the comments if you think Miami is going to be able to ship Rozier out of Miami if they are able to land a trade before the tip-off of the regular season. I think at this point, it's going to be pretty hard to at least get, hopefully, a decent player out of it. But at this point, if they get some good first-round draft stock and multiple picks in that regard, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, just because it's seeming like they're pretty desperate at this point. I mean, they're literally saying they're willing to trade Rozier for, quote, just about anything, which, I mean, is kind of unbelievable because a few weeks ago, I feel like, they were saying Miami would like to shop Rozier, but they didn't really seem desperate in how it was being reported in the headlines. But now, I mean, it's clear that they want the point guard out of Miami, and especially developing some of the players that are hopefully going to be more focal in Miami's backcourt, especially this season, that I'm going to talk about a little bit later in this episode. I definitely think that they're really hoping to get some extra value out of the point guard before it kind of gets too late. And then if we get into the regular season and he's still playing at the level that we were hoping he was going to be playing a lot higher at in comparison to last season, then I think less teams will be even more intrigued to pick up a $25 million contract, especially for the last year on his deal. So drop in the comments where you think Rozier is going to end up to kick off the regular season, if he'll be in Miami for tip-off, or if it'll take all the way till the trade deadline for Miami to find a good destination and some quality value for the guard. But now moving over to another trade Miami was just involved in, specifically, Haywood Highsmith is now kind of there are talks about him, at least that I saw online, that he could potentially end up moving to the Knicks now that he's been traded to Brooklyn, basically for a bag of chips. I thought it was interesting. Draymond Green also kind of agreeing with me there, that especially because Miami looking to start Highsmith over Jimmy Butler when him and Pat Riley's tizzy started, and they really began to have a falling out publicly. So I just think it's very interesting that really all they were able to get out of shipping Highsmith in general was some draft capital. And, obviously Brooklyn has him right now, and nothing is confirmed that Brooklyn is going to try to ship him out elsewhere. But him being in New York, and the Knicks also needing to add some, are really also kind of desperate to add some players to their lineup in the grand scheme of things, just because, quite honestly, they just have not a lot of flexibility between how much they're paying Karl Anthony Towns, Jalen Brunson, OG Anunoby, and even Josh Hart. So I just think that, it could be an easy pipeline to create some unintentional depth to the Knicks roster, and I hope that doesn't potentially bite Miami in the butt when it comes down to, either a regular season matchup, or if these two teams see each other in the postseason. And it ultimately comes down to who has the deeper roster. Because, Highsmith has showed he can be a solid player deep in the rotation. Not I wouldn't say a sixth man, but definitely a player that can come in and make a difference, whether he's playing, 10 or 15 minutes on the court or he's only playing 5 or 7. So drop in the comments if you think Highsmith could maybe add some depth or value to the New York Knicks if Brooklyn decides to not really hang on to him. It doesn't seem like Brooklyn is overly enthusiastic about keeping him around, but it also doesn't seem like they're running around looking to shop the 2-3 player who's also coming off recovering from a major injury as well. So only time is going to tell there, and I think it'll be interesting to see what kind of happens to him if he floats around New York or the tri-state area going forward, or if he ends up being a mistake that Miami could have had, at least as a player to keep deep in their back pockets, going into the 2025-26 NBA season. And now moving over to 2 more players that, Miami has really, I think, tried investing in, especially over the course of this past summer. Pela Larson and Nikola Jovic, they are balling out in EuroBasket right now, both having respective performances over the course of this weekend. And again, very promising to see, guards that Miami has really banked on the development of over the course of the last couple of, seasons, really trying to see if they're going to become, focal players in the rotation, a 6th-man, 7th or 8th guy in the overall rotation going forward. Pela Larson versus Portugal, as he suited up for Sweden, dropped 17 points on 62% shooting to go with 4 rebounds in that game. And then Jovic against Germany, adding 22 points on 7 of 11 shooting, 4 of those baskets being threes, and he shot 4 of 7 from 3 in that game playing for Serbia. And I think it's just, once again, very exciting to see more players that are involved in Miami's backcourt really finding themselves scoring double-digit points, shooting the ball very efficiently in a professional setting. In this case being EuroBasket, and I just think that hopefully that will translate over to the regular season, and both of those guys will kind of be able to show some inklings of that at least at the start of the season, considering Miami is very bent over on the fact that they want to get rid of Rozier right now, and they're really just trying to get the point guard out, especially when you're developing young guards like that, and then you draft another guy like Yaku Chones. You're hoping that this is really going to help this backcourt kind of come together more in the season, and seeing performances like this over the course of this past weekend, again, very, very promising and exciting. I would say in the grand scheme of things, it's not 100% going to translate over to how they play this regular season, but you'd rather see a performance like that where both players are scoring roughly 20 points respectively than only scoring, 4 or 6 points in, a decent amount of play, and they're getting outclassed by other NBA competition and EuroBasket play. So drop in the comments if you think the play from Pela Larson and Nikola Jovic over the course of this weekend will translate to how they're going to play this NBA regular season. I'm very hopeful that it will, but only time will tell. So we'll just have to wait and see on that. But moving over to a former Miami draft pick that went 2nd overall in 2008. We're going to talk about Mike Beasley and how he's been balling out in the Big 3 Champions League, being named MVP for the 2nd year in a row, and now leading his team, the Miami 305, to the championship game on August 24th, them winning the semifinal game against the Dallas Power, where Michael Beasley had 22 points and 12 rebounds, was just an absolute bucket in that game. And, over the course of the last 2 seasons where he's been named Big 3 MVP, he's been averaging 23 points per game, shooting roughly 44% from the field and 41% from 3. It's just, quite honestly, it's almost like he's kind of had a better career arc moving over to 3-on-3 professional basketball than he really did in the NBA. So it's exciting to see the former Miami draft pick that was had a little bit more higher expectations for when he did initially come into the league, really balling out. Him and Lance Stevenson both absolutely dominating that semifinal game against Dallas, and I'm hopeful that he can take home the championship, because then we'll have another segment here talking about how Beasley is just, I would say a unique player in the sense that I think his isolation game, and when there's less players on the floor, he's able to space himself and really kind of find his true game a lot more in some of those settings. So big congratulations for him winning back-to-back MVP and helping his team punch their way to the Big Three championship game on August 24th. It's going to be interesting to see if they can come out with a W, but I'm hoping that the former Miami Heat player can be a dog, do his best, and bring home another ring to a professional basketball team based in the 305. Well, that's going to do it for this Wednesday's episode of Your Heat Latest here on FanArc. Once again, don't forget to like this video and, of course, subscribe to our channel for great daily content Monday through Friday, all right here. Thanks again so much for joining us. I'm Sam Shapiro, and have a great day.